What is up, guys, and welcome back to another episode. Once again, this is going to be a podcast style episode because I have the mic in my hand and I'm just going to be talking about whatever I feel like I should talk about. So, this is actually another requested video from the YouTube account hockey underscore meme underscore man. And he said, I want to see big trades that might happen that aren't Aaron Rodgers related. This is all I've seen about. Very understandable. All we heard about in the NFL for like a solid month was Aaron Rodgers, and then you sprinkle in a little bit of draft stuff, but Aaron Rodgers. So, you know, I get why you'd want to move on from that. Aaron Rodgers did already get traded, so that'll help for sure. It'll make it be a lot easier to not have to hear about Aaron Rodgers all the time. But yeah, I get your point either way. So, um, let's go ahead and get started with this. I think I do have a few trades made up that I think would be interesting, and I'm not gonna. They're not trades that necessarily I have both compensation sides for, but it's just the idea of the trade in general. So first, we're gonna start with one. It's probably not gonna make you a whole lot happier than Aaron Rodgers, and that's Lamar Jackson. Um, Obviously, he wants to trade, and I think it's best for him to be traded. I think there's a reason he hasn't been signed, and it's for good reason, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson is a great football player, an amazing football player, but is not a great quarterback. So you can't necessarily give him premier quarterback money when he's not a great quarterback. He can't stay healthy. That's another part of it. You know, he has a trend of being really good for the first 6 games, decent for the next 6 games, and then for the last 6, he's hurt. So you know that's just what it is. And you know, I think it's about time they trade him. I just don't think they're going to get to it. I think that Baltimore is at a place where their roster is old enough where they don't they're either looking at trading Lamar to another team for another quarterback or they're looking at a rebuild now. So, with that said, I think I'm just going to have them basically starting their rebuild, trading Lamar to San Francisco. Um, San Francisco would be a great fit. I actually made an entire Madden episode about this, rebuilding the 49ers with Lamar Jackson. But he also fits their timeline. He's not like a rookie that's 10 years old and you have to, get him ready before you can really contend. He's not super old where he is just too old for them and he'll get like 1 year like Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. He's not, you maybe get 2 years out of him and then that's it. You have a guy who he could potentially play for another 10 years, um, if not maybe a little more. And so he fits their timeline. Kyle Shanahan is an offensive guru, and I can't imagine having Debo, Christian McCaffrey, and Lamar all in the same backfield. That would just be insane. So, um, yeah, I think that'd be a really great fit. And then the other side of this is potentially sending Trey Lance back to the Baltimore Ravens. the the cost for Lamar Jackson right now is going to be 2 first round picks, and they can do that in the future. They can send their 2 first picks, whatever. And I think also you can sweeten the deal just a tiny bit, not that you really need to, but by giving them Trey Lance, because I mean at that point you just don't need him, and they're looking to get rid of him anyways. Trey Lance is, this is wherever he goes, it's going to be his pretty much his last chance to be a starter in this league. He's a prospect, and that's about it. I mean, he's not shown anything particularly great. He's been okay when he's played, but he's not been great at all. So, it's kind of just a situation of he hasn't done it, and he's had a couple chances, even though they weren't the best chances. And he got hurt, and that's not the team's fault. It's his fault. So, um, that would be another way he could go to Baltimore, and they can try one more thing before they have to start their rebuild. Um, they can get him there and see if he can mesh, fit in with the team, and develop into anything before they have to start their full blown rebuild. But yeah, the 49ers have been not able to get over the hump with their mediocre QB play. Jimmy Garoppolo is a fine player, but not going to win you anything on his own. And then Trey Lance obviously didn't show anything else either. Brock Purdy, 49ers fans are all up in arms about him, and I get it. It was a great story. He's not going to win you every single game ever or anything like that. He's just not. It's just not going to happen. Maybe he can develop into that, but right now, no, he's not going to. He threw 170 yards per game and like a touchdown a game. Like, that's not even that good. it was a great story, and he didn't mess up. That's about all it was. Um, so I'm a Brock Purdy fan. The story, the situation, the player, it's awesome, but I just it's not that important. Like it really just isn't. Sorry. Um, but yeah, so moving on, I'm going to talk about Trey Lance a little bit as well. So Baltimore, I've already kind of listed that as a potential place, but another place. This has probably already been around a little bit, but the Texans. D'Amico Ryans obviously is the new head coach for Houston. He was the 49ers defensive coordinator just this last year. So, um, that's an ideal trade partner in my opinion because I did a video yesterday about scenarios of different teams, and I had Houston not taking a quarterback at all. I think this is the perfect situation for them. You can go get Will Anderson, go get Jackson Smith and Jigba, or whoever you want on the offense and the defense, or two defense, two offense. Who cares? You can get whatever you want to do, and then build your team up so that way the next year, when they're still probably going to be pretty bad, you can get whatever quarterback you want. And that's a potential theory, but you can also try that this year and take a fourth round pick maybe and trade it for Trey Lance, who, I mean, his upside is way higher than a fourth round pick, so you're not losing any value, but you're not just, you're not spending a whole lot. You're not doing anything that's going to completely inhibit your team. So you give him one shot to beat out Davis Mills. If he beats out Davis Mills, then he gets the starting job, and if he is actually a good starter, look what you've done. You have a good roster that you drafted, that you put together, and now you have a quarterback that you developed. Or he sucks and he doesn't beat out Davis Mills, or he does beat out Davis Mills and Davis Mills, both of them suck, and you get a quarterback. So who cares? It doesn't really matter. You know, D'Amico Ryans was the defensive coordinator, but that's not the side of the ball he's focused on. But I've been around enough college football meetings to know that personnel meetings are with all the coaches. So you know what about every player. So, but yeah, I think that's an option. Tying it into yesterday's episode, go watch that. Um, and if they do take a QB, or I mean, if they don't, this could be kind of like Trey Lance's last trial run, and he gets a chance to do something, and it is what it is after that. Moving on, we have Buda Baker. Buda Baker has obviously requested a trade from the Arizona Cardinals. You know, you can't really do anything about that. He's a slightly older veteran he's like 27, I think, or 28, but an older veteran who is going to not want to stick around for a rebuild, and that's what Arizona is putting themselves into right now. Um, the Broncos, I think, are an option. Vance Joseph was his old coach, and he was an All-Pro under Vance Joseph. He wants out of the Cardinals, and I think it'll cost probably another team around like maybe a second or third round pick, with some additives, probably like a second and a fifth or whatever, something like that. And that would be a crazy safety tandem with him and Justin Simmons. I think that'd be really interesting. The problem is for me, I think they could get him easily, but I don't know if they can pay him, and that's kind of the reason he wants to leave. I think you can get him for however whatever you want, but can you also pay him? And then are you willing to be paying two different safeties like premier money? I just don't think that's smart. So they could afford him to that, but I just don't know if it's worth it. And that's paying a lot of money to one position, and I don't see that being valuable. So Buda Baker to the Broncos is something that I thought mainly because of the coaching and connections, and maybe Buda Baker be willing to kind of sit on it a little bit, just because if he has a good relationship with Vance Joseph, which I don't know, I haven't talked to him, but if he has a good relationship with him, then it could be something that he's willing to kind of fork off a little money for, just so he can have the situation. But that's if he specifically wants the Denver Broncos. And then another team I have for him is maybe the Lions. They have a huge need on defense. Their offense was super great last year, but their defense was one of the worst in the league. Safety isn't really their most dire need by any means, but getting a playmaker on defense, I don't think you're going to argue with that, whether he's a safety or a defensive tackle. He's a playmaker. They don't have playmakers, so they could afford him to the cap, and the cost of getting him could at worst be their second rounder. So that's fine. You're not going to get, you're not going to end up getting like anybody probably better than him at that pick anyways in terms of value immediately. So you're basically spending a second round draft pick on Buda Baker, an all pro. So that's fine. Um, I like him in that kind of defense. He's a really physical player, and I think he'd really fit with Dan Campbell. So I do think that would be an interesting fit. Um, However, I know their needs are not at safety. As I said, they have um, those two players that I can't think of their names right now. The one who picked off Aaron Rodgers like twice, and then the other one. So if that tells you anything about the Lions, it doesn't really help. They don't have very good safeties. They're fine. They're not bad players. I know whoever they are. I just can't think of their names right now. Whoever they are, they're not bad players at all. They're just not all pros. So I mean, Buda Baker would walk in and be the starter immediately. Moving on from that, we have DeAndre Hopkins. Once out as well, kind of similar situation, except he's at the point where he's going to be 31 when the year starts. His contract's pretty big, and veteran guys just don't want to rebuild. With his age, he's not going to be an expensive ad for a team. He'll cost a late round pick, probably a fifth or sixth rounder, something like that. And he said he wants to go to the Bills or Chiefs. Those would be great fits, especially with the Chiefs, because the Chiefs have no wide receivers right now. They let MVS go, I believe. They let Juju go. They let Mecole go. I don't think is MVS there. I don't think so. Either way, I want to say he went somewhere else, but I can't see it right now. Either way, if they do have him, that's their best receiver, and he's fine, but he's not that great. So getting a guy who, I mean, is a bona fide number one wide receiver, and when he plays and he's healthy, he's still probably one of the top 3 to 5 receivers in the NFL. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea to me. Um, I think Kansas City with him and Patrick Mahomes would be borderline unfair, and that's kind of sounds like the Chiefs. That sounds like something they'd like to do. So then with Buffalo, they have a number one with Stephon Diggs, and he would remain their number one just because of his tenure and what he's done with the team. But I think Stephon Diggs also, um, what he has is not like the prototype of a wide receiver one. The prototype is a taller, bigger bodied, catch radius that's huge, whatever receiver. Stephon Diggs is a little smaller, he's a little more finesse than physical, which is fine. He's turned that into a great career. You can do that, but at the same time, it's a different style of receiver. You can have D Hop on the outside and Diggs in the slot, and then Gabe Davis or whoever on the other side, and that would be a pretty dangerous wide receiver tandem. Um, yeah, I think that'd be pretty good. So I'd understand why he wanted to go there. I think that'd be great fits for the teams. I think giving more weapons to those quarterbacks would be absolutely necessary. So, yeah, and then another team I have listed that he didn't, which wouldn't necessarily make sense if another trade happened, but is the Broncos. I think Denver has a player they could break away from, but get a guy back. And yes, they're going to be kind of swapping money, and maybe they aren't happy about that necessarily. But the thing is, I think Cortland Sutton is a guy who they're trying to get rid of, and they just don't see the development there. And so you can send him. He's still got a few years left of his prime for sure. I think he's like 27, so not too old. You can send him with Kyler, and because Kyler's, if they trade D Hop for nothing, like in terms of actual players, they're not going to have any receivers on that team. I think they'll have Rondale Moore, Marquise Brown, and I'm gonna be honest, Marquise Brown is my number one receiver. Not doing it. So Cortland Sutton as a number one, it's fine. I mean, not the best, but it's fine. So I would like that better than what they have. And he also, maybe just a change of scenery, could develop him a little bit more. Get him with a different quarterback. And, it's an option to just bring back value and to help Kyler out for a little bit while they're trying to rebuild. Because, that's one big thing in rebuilds is you have to help your quarterback. You can't, if you take away all of his receivers and all of his offensive linemen because they're too expensive and too old, then you're going to screw the quarterback over. So you can't do that. The next one I have is Joe Mixon. Obviously, his off-field issues are going to slow anything down that happens, whether he gets traded or cut either. I really don't expect him to be cut very quickly if it happens because obviously the Bengals would prefer to trade him. I don't know if they would get much out of him because the running backs just aren't valuable. He's already like 28, a little older, and in terms of a running back at least. And then, he's just the situation. I'm not going to go into that, but I think they can trade him, get whatever mid, late round pick, fourth, fifth, whatever. That would be fine because it's value at that point. It's, some value is better than no value. And, uh, maybe they could trade him for, uh, those picks and get like Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft. Now, be kind of hard maybe to get Bijan. I don't know if he's going to last till 27 or whatever it is they have, but Jahmyr Gibbs is absolutely a potential fit for them, and I think he fits in well in that offense. Really great pass catcher and a solid runner as well. To me, he's like Alvin Kamara Jr. in a way. So, um, yeah, I just don't think they have any reason to keep Joe Mixon on this team outside of the off-field issues. Um, the last 2 years in the playoffs, they've used Samaje Perine more than Joe Mixon himself. And if Joe Mixon is supposed to be this stud running back and he's so great, why in the world are they using Samaje Perine in the playoffs? Don't think I have to say much else about that. But yeah, so Samaje Perine's gone, so they need somebody to play running back, and so that might be a reason they keep Mixon. But I just think he's going to cause too much trouble. And another trade idea I kind of thought about if they could convince a team of it and they were willing to pay the money is that being the Bengals is trading him to the Giants for Saquon because Saquon has now holding out. I don't know. This is a really crazy theory. I'm just kind of spitting this off the dome, but um, yeah, it's he's wanting out or holding out or whatever it is because of his contract situation as he doesn't want to play on the franchise tag, which I get to a point. But if they're willing to take Joe Mixon and still have a good running back but not a great one, that's fine. And then the Bengals get Saquon, and that might sound a little crazy, but the Bengals have spent a lot of time and assets trying to invest in weapons for Joe Burrow. That's what they've done since he's gotten there. They've put all their money into assets and weapons for him. So I don't know. It's a crazy idea, but it's just something I thought about that could maybe happen. You don't tend to see a lot of one for one trades, and that's fine. But just switching the value up may be okay. So just an idea. And then Dalvin Cook is my next one. Old, aging, injury prone, expensive, way too many reasons. I have reason to trade him. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on him, but he could be an option to clear some space. He could be an option for Chicago. I didn't say that, but Mixon is another option for Chicago as well. They don't have a really a top end running back, and like I've said, I don't know that Mixon is anymore, but he has the potential to be, and maybe he's done it before. So Chicago might be okay with that. Plus, they have the money to spend on it. But either way, Dalvin Cook could be an option for Chicago if they warrant for it. This morning, actually, I got a notification saying that the Dolphins could be interested in Dalvin Cook, which makes somewhat sense, but he's old, he's aging. That's what every running back they have is old and aging. I don't know why you'd do that, but whatever. I think Atlanta could be another spot for Dalvin Cook. Kind of for the same reasons as Chicago would be. They have the money and they're trying to build an explosive offense. They already have a great running offense as of last year. So I don't know how Cordero Patterson panned out necessarily. They kind of had a running back by committee last year, and getting Dalvin Cook, who when healthy can be really good, would be a decent idea to me. Then this one, Devin White. He requested a trade. Team declined to trade him. They may keep that as it is. But as young as he is, and at the timeline the team is on, I could easily see the team trying to trade him because that's not really a salvageable situation necessarily. He's too young, they're too old. He doesn't want to be there. It's not gonna last long. Mike Tomlin said it a few years ago. We don't take hostages. You don't want hostages on your team. So why would you keep him? I don't know. Middle linebackers are weird. They've kind of turned into the running back on defense in some ways. Them and safeties both. They're just not that valuable for some reason. I don't really know why, but they're just not. But yeah, the good ones obviously have value. He'd be maybe a second round pick, third round pick, but like value wise. But I just don't know if it'd be more than that, which is kind of crazy because an edge rusher would be 3 first round picks or whatever it is. But either way, beyond the point. I don't know what teams honestly would fit into this. I don't know if they would. They would definitely wouldn't trade interdivision. Most teams won't, especially with a good player as good as Devin White. And then maybe Philly. They have some weakness in that spot, but do they want to give up their picks? I don't know. Maybe the LA Chargers because they've kind of had a running linebacker just rotation because no one stays. So those are some ideas. I don't want to, him with the situation. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him either because they've already negated the fact that they're going to trade him. How that stands, I don't know. Either way. And then my final one, I'm taking the liberty to add one person that many people may have forgotten about, and that's Davante Adams. I'm not saying he's going to be traded at the draft when the rest of these guys might be, or around the draft when the rest of these guys might be. But Davante went to Las Vegas to play with Derek Carr, his college quarterback. Derek Carr is now on the New Orleans Saints. He's probably not too happy about that, and he's probably not going to want to sit around on a rebuild either. So, I think he's tweeted stuff and said he's going to play this year, but okay, he'll play this year. I don't say nothing about next year. Maybe he takes this year and just like does what he does and then moves on next year at the trade deadline even. So I'm not going to say where he might fit because I don't know. I mean, it's not even a trade I think is going to happen really soon. I just think it's something that we can't forget about because there's very good reason for it, and it just makes too much sense. So it's something I could foresee. Probably not around the draft. Maybe at the beginning of the season, around like training camp and stuff. Maybe, but I don't think so. Potentially at the trade deadline. That's probably the first time it could really start. And then after that, maybe like next season after around the next draft and whatnot. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Um, yeah. Thank y'all for watching. And Hockey Meme Man, this was for you. So, thank you for watching and peace.